You're listening to Ruthie's Table 4 in partnership with Moncler. Sienna Miller tells a story that when her sister Sienna was born, it was like the lights came on. Our guests on Ruthie's Table 4 are people we all know through the movies they make, the companies they run, the policies and the values they are defined by. Here we get to know them in a different way, how they lay a table, what they feed their children, a recipe they've kept from their grandmother. Everyone knows Sienna Miller as an actress, a fashion designer, and a brave combatant who stood up for her rights against a powerful media empire. All of us in the River Cafe know her as a fabulous eater, coming in on Sundays with her family, always a big table, always involving children, always sitting in the window. Most of all, it's about sharing. Most of all, it's about fun. Just like Sienna, we're here today in the River Cafe, and the lights have come on.
Oh, really?
So, Sienna, would you like to read the recipe that you chose to make for this podcast?
Yeah.
Which is
Pizza Bianca with taleggio, artichokes, and thyme. Or as Guillermo del Toro said on his, thyme, which I loved. From now on, I want to call it thyme. A pizza Bianca is a pizza without tomato, but if you want to add something salty, you can add artichokes. Ingredients: pizza dough, 00 flour for dusting, olive oil for drizzling, 2 artichokes baked and sliced, 400 grams of taleggio sliced thyme. Preheat the oven to 230 degrees centigrade. Put a large baking sheet in the oven to heat up and roll your dough ball on a floured worktop as thinly as possible. Place the pizza on a piece of baking paper. Top with artichoke slices and taleggio. Season with salt, pepper, and thyme. Drizzle with a little olive oil. Transfer the baking paper with pizza onto the hot baking sheet. Bake for 6 to 8 minutes until the pizza is puffed and golden.
Yeah, easy. We were talking about making pizzas and what that involves, but it's also involved with how you feed your kids. And so I suppose we could talk about, before feeding your kids, how your parents fed you. What was the food like in your household as a child? Do you have memories?
I have so many memories. My mother is an amazing cook, and really a lot of her nurturing and her mothering comes through cooking, and always did. She was born in Yorkshire. She then moved to South Africa when she was about 4. My grandmother was South African, and she remarried a Jewish man, converted to Judaism. So Mum kind of grew up with a half Yorkshire, half Jewish South African cuisine around her. And then when that husband died, my grandmother converted back to the church. So she was,
oh, really?
She's not a great Jew. No, she was quite flimsy with it. But as a result of that, Mum's got a lot of different styles of cooking. And Sunday lunch was just a huge feature.
Where were you born?
I was born in New York to an American father, and my sister was born in Hong Kong because they lived in Hong Kong before. And then we moved to London when I was about 18 months.
A lot of
moving around, a lot of
places.
different, exactly.
Yeah, but for you were born in New York.
I was born in New York, raised in London. I mean, I remember teething on biltong. Like, she would give us sticks of biltong. And I don't really remember teething, but I kind of do remember.
So you had to go back that far.
Running around like Bam Bam with just dried meat in every hand.
How old were you when you came back?
People are grimacing, but I still love it. Yeah. I was 18 months old.
Oh, okay. So your childhood was British.
My childhood was British. But filled with from people from all over the world. So we'd have, a braai, a South African barbecue in the summer on Sundays, and boerewors.
What kind of barbecue?
It's called a braai. It's basically the Afrikaans word for a barbecue, I believe. And we'd have boerewors and druiwors, which is different types of sausage. I know. Well, I grew up with this.
Interesting.
Yeah, and bobotie, this South African dish, and biltong everywhere, which is the dried meat, which I still love.
So there was your sister and yourself.
My sister and myself and
my
mother.
Did your mother work?
She did. She
could cook and she could have a job and then come home.
Well, she was a yoga Alexander technique exercise teacher. So I grew up in a house with women lying all over the floors. I mean, and my friends remember this, especially when I was a teenager. Her classes were so popular that they'd spill out of the allocated room, which was next to my bedroom, into the hallways, down the stairs, on another landing. It wasn't a big house, but...
And this was your yoga lesson? I don't know if I signed up for the yoga lesson, found myself on the stairs.
I know. Well, she was so good at it. It was yoga. She actually started the first exercise-based school in London in the 70s called Granny's Beautiful Bodies, and it was Alexander Technique, yoga, ballet kind of hybrid, and Ava Gardner went and Albert Finney, and she was this really talented...
Where was it?
It was in Knightsbridge.
Because there was a woman called Lottie Burke. Do you remember her?
Yes, she was
and
her partner.
I went to her.
That was
sounds
Mum's...
just like it.
Yes.
I went to Lottie Burke. I can't remember who told me about it when I first came to London.
Yeah.
I think that was in probably 1970.
Yes.
And she looked totally out of cabaret, do you remember her? So your mother worked with her?
Yes. They established it together.
Yeah.
I don't really have many memories of that, but when she started doing it again after my parents got divorced, these people would flock, and there were just women with their legs in the air outside the bedroom, and I'd be hungover with a hoodie on, trying to get to the bathroom, just like,
Did she eat in a healthy way? Is it
No.
she was concerned about yoga and Alexander?
She's never been weight conscious. She's never been conscious about calories, or everything had butter and cream, and and I think there is something that's so incredible about being nourished by a meal cooked with love, which is what you do here. Every single time you feel the love in the food, and it's like going home.
It's an
like
ingredient.
It is a really strong ingredient.
Cooking it with,
you can taste
with love,
it completely.
You can taste it.
Yeah.
It is about sharing and about tasting. So you, with your mother working, did you still sit down to a table every night and, after school, your sister and you and your mother and...
I mean, I went to boarding school at 8, so that so then it was just weekends. Yeah, I did. They got divorced when I was 6, and then 2 years later I went to boarding school.
And when you left the comfort of home and food and, as you say, the ingredient cooking with love, was going to boarding school, did you feel that ingredient was there in the food that you ate at boarding school?
I mean, it was a really... My best friend is in the room and she's laughing at me with a pained expression. No, she didn't go to that school. No, not the first one. I mean, I was about as high as this table. I was tiny, and it was too young, but apparently I really wanted to go, and it was on paper a really idyllic looking place. It was a manor house. There were only 52 girls. But, that first night, you're in a room with 10 girls you've never met in kind of metal beds, with tweed blankets over the top, and it's lights out at 7, and it's traumatic. It's completely traumatic. Plus, they used to feed us on Tuesdays Spam, and you'd have to finish your plate. You'd have to eat everything. I remember sort of sticking it in my pockets and finding dried bits of Spam in my pocket, which was lovely.
What are your other food memories of that school?
Well, sometimes it was great, like big pots of lasagna, and every day at 4:00, the baker would deliver either ice buns or jam donuts, or there'd be some kind of delivery, which was the highlight of the entire thing.
Then when you went home at weekends, was it a big deal?
Yeah. And Mum, she'd make the most out of nothing. And it was filled with flavour and filled with love. And then on Sundays, all of her eccentric friends would come round for a big, boozy Sunday lunch, and we'd be made to sit at the table, however old or young we were. And some of my most, I think, formative moments were around that table, because everyone's drinking, there's opera blasting, there's no one censoring the conversation, and you really learn how to kind of find your way in the world through listening to adult conversation and eating food, and it was very joyous and jubilant.
Did you ever come back, or did you stay?
So it was every weekend.
No, but I mean for the rest of your education.
No, that was it.
Were you a boarder?
Yeah, so that was a weekly boarding. I was there for 2 years. Then there was a fire, or it just closed down, and I ended up going to senior school a year early. So I was 10 when I went to senior school and 17 when I left, even though I finished it.
Where was that?
That was in Berkshire.
And what was that like?
And that was, by that point, I was a seasoned boarder. I was again, about 3 feet tall, but really confident, really able. I'd completely detached from the notion of homesickness. I'd gone through it in a really intense way. So I was quite strong by that point and up for it. And my big sister was at the same school, which I'm sure helped. And it was school food, but I still dream about this chewy toast that they'd have in the mornings.
What was it? Tell me.
They'd had one of those things where you put the bread in, and it's cheap bread, and it rotates through and sort of half toasts. But obviously it's cooked a while ago, and it becomes kind of bready and chewy. And I used to make a butter and Marmite mix with the cold butter that was thick and spread it on and bend it over. And I still, everyone's laughing. I'm a real pig.
No, Ted, you like Marmite, don't you?
I love Marmite.
No, it's just because
I love it mixed with butter too. It's very
you mix it with the butter first.
Yeah, we can do.
Because I thought you
You
were
can
supposed
it goes, I scramble my eggs with a dollop of it in. They go kind of grey, but it's delicious. Bovril, I'm a huge Bovril fan.
Which is, I always say, I've said it before on this because other people praised Marmite, that when I first came to London, I went to a photography school, and we had to do a series, and I thought what I'd like to do is get a bunch of Americans and give them Marmite and butter and take a photograph of their face when they tasted it, because for an American, it was just like, what are these people eating?
What is this yeast spread?
And then I never quite got over it because Richard he used to sometimes have Marmite in bed, and it was just like.
But the breath, the Marmite breath is specific. They actually did genius advertising. They did, you either love it or hate it. I remember this advert where it was like a girl and a boy, and they were on a date, and it was going really well. And he comes back to hers, and she says, do you want some coffee? And there's an old piece of toast with Marmite on it in the kitchen, making the coffee. She just takes a bite of the thing and goes back in, and then they start kissing, and he goes. Blah, blah. And it said, Marmite, you either love it or you hate it, which you have to lean in. I think raw, I wouldn't want to eat it out of its jar. Okay. Bovril, I could.
I know, this is going to really sound stupid. What's the difference?
Bovril is beef spread.
Okay.
We're really barbaric. It's the Yorkshire in me.
Ask me how many years I've lived here.
How long have you lived here?
But both are stock.
50 years.
Beef stock, one's a yeast stock.
Yeast
they
and
weren't
beef.
designed as spreads. They were designed as stock.
So I put it in all sorts of cooking. I sneak it in.
Oh, it's even worse. You still use it.
I do, yeah. I'll put it in gravy, a little bit of Marmite in a Bolognese. You'll love it, Ruthie. You need to come over.
You know that date we had for lunch?
Yeah, you're cancelled. You've got to wash your hair that night. Right.
Something really good on TV I want to watch.
Do you have a favorite meal? What would be your?
Interviewing me.
Well, I'm just curious.
My favorite meal. Yeah, I think there is a kind of meal that I like very much, which is based on having pasta first. So it's always tomato pasta, and then having vegetables cooked in different ways.
Yeah.
So I'll have artichokes that are slow roasted, and then I'll have spinach that's just blanched with olive oil, and their tomatoes, we'll put them in the oven and get them that there's absolutely not one drop of liquid in them, and they've kind of almost stuck to the pan. I like eating that way. I'm much less, in my old age, less interested in the first course, second course, third course, that formality of it. So it kind of breaks some of the rules when you think, what are we having after the pasta? Maybe nothing, but we are, and then you bring out the beans. So it's a way that I quite like to eat. Did your parents take you to restaurants?
Yeah, they did. They took us, we had a local Italian called Di Cecco. We'd go there. I'd go to Johnny Rockets with my dad and have a foot-long hot dog and a Coke float.
Is Johnny Rockets there anymore?
I don't know. Yeah. Coke floats, I love the idea of, but I always found them kind of disgusting. But I'd get it just because I was trying to connect to his American side, and then we go to fancier places as well.
And when you became a kind of more independent person on your own, well, you always say that you were in New York and you were taking care of your friends, and you were the person that people went to for Sunday lunch, or you still did that. But when you were acting and when you're working on a film, what is it like when you're working and when you are either in theater or in film and you're trying to work? And do you have a special routine for eating?
No, it all probably goes a bit wrong in those moments. I mean,
what way?
Well, I'm not someone who's going to cook for themselves. I think so much of the joy of it is feeding other people. So I will end up cooking for the cast.
Can you remember a place
well, just remote, like Shreveport, Louisiana. We lived on the side of the road in a Holiday Inn or something.
What were you filming?
I was filming a movie about Edie Sedgwick called Factory Girl, and we were all in a Marriott Residence Inn on the side of the freeway in Bossier City, which is outside of Louisiana, Shreveport. Jimmy Fallon was in that movie, Guy Pearce, all these, Tara Summers was in it, Jack Huston, who's just directed a movie that's apparently amazing. And I would cook in this tiny,
You would still cook?
I would still cook. I would still find a way to cook.
Your experience that you had as a person who was, doing their work, raising their children, having your privacy, doing no harm, breaking no rules, had something horrible happen to her. And we could bring it back to the food. I could say, what do you eat when a newspaper empire goes for you and tries to destroy you and goes into your phone? Did you feel hungry or did you give up eating? But it is part of our conversation about life and food and fairness. And I wondered if you could say how you felt when you woke up in the morning and knew. Did you have breakfast, or did you?
In moments of real stress, I lose my appetite.
You lose it.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I love to eat more than anything. It's where I get a huge amount of pleasure. But I lose my appetite if I'm under immense stress.
So what was it like?
Well, the paparazzi attention at a very young age was probably the most traumatizing and surreal, because it happened from one day to the next.
How old were you?
I was 21. And I'd fallen in love with my co-star of my first film, and he was very famous. And there were pictures of us. We'd gone to the National Portrait Gallery or something, the Tate Modern, I can't remember. And I remember leaving his house the following day and getting in a black taxi, and the cabbie saying, "Have you seen the News of the World today?" And I was like, "What?" 21. And he said, "Have you seen the News of the World?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You're all over it." And he threw a copy of the newspaper in the back of the cab, and there we were on the front. It was honestly like normal life to absolute surreal, life after that. And I got home to my flat, and there were photographers all outside my flat. And that was it. It was gloves off at that moment in culture where the tabloids had all the power and young women were really persecuted, and men. But it was really crazy. And at first it was kind of funny. I felt like Lara Croft or in some virtual experience, and my friends, we'd like run away and try and hide, and it was giggly, but it became very quickly very insidious, because it was threatening and aggressive, and it really took over my entire identity. I felt like was being written and read by people, but I felt so out of control in a really formative moment. And this all happened before that film had come out, or any film had come out. I was at the very beginning of my career, and I do look back and wonder how different things would have been if I had been known as an actor first. It was a lot of a battle to kind of establish myself and to be taken seriously and not seen as someone who wore nice clothes or had a famous boyfriend. Or it was a battle, and I think I definitely ate through it, I'm sure, at that time. But it was, and then of course the phone hacking, I knew that was going on at the time. It was very difficult, because it would be impossible for them to know half of what they knew without some form of eavesdropping. And I think there were bugs put in houses and in cars and trackers on cars and all sorts of, and you feel like you're going mad, but clicks on the line of my mother's landline. So it was relieving in a way to know that I hadn't gone mad. When I found out, but to find out was really difficult. I had to take the Met Police to court to get the evidence that they had, in order to take the News of the World to court. And they wanted 21 days to hand it over, the evidence that they had, and the judge said, hand it over today. And these 4 huge boxes filled with emails and phone numbers and numbers of my friends. And anyway, in the end, I didn't settle out of court. I took them to court, which meant I got far less money than I would have done had I been quiet. But actually, it's one of the proudest things that I did. And now some of the friends whose numbers they also had have got some money too. So it kind of feels like that's a lovely ending to a saga.
Yeah. And was there comfort you could find in those days in did you cooking or to...
The cooking was always a grounding. I mean, it was a decade really of harassment. But as much as possible, it's okay, because it sucks in retrospect, but it also is a huge part of who I am and why I'm the way that I am, and what matters to me is very clear, and what doesn't matter and what's out of your control is also very clear. And I think I tried to control it for a long time and then gave up, and I now know my friends, my family, the people I love, the restaurants I love, the food I love, the community around me is sacred and respected. And the rest, I don't care. I feel like everyone in the world see my, dirty underwear. It's like there's nothing more I can. Everyone knows everything, whatever. But I know the truth.
Gives you power.
Yeah.
It does give you. Though you're saying it gives you.
I
if you
think
haven't
so.
been killed, there are people who have been destroyed.
Well, I'm proud that I didn't go that far, but I understand absolutely why you lose your mind. It kind of perpetuates behavior coping mechanisms that are toxic, drinking too much or going out too much or just keeping moving because it's also crazy. And you can see why people unravel. And actually it suits them the more you unravel. They're kind of encouraging you to do that because that sells more papers. So it's wonderful in a way. I'm not a fan of social media, but I respect that women now have an opportunity that their voice is more powerful than anything anyone could write, or they have a means to retaliate. I just got incredibly litigious, and then you'd get an apology that's that big, tiny, in a newspaper that no one sees. I mean, it's nice that it's come full circle, and we look back on that behavior and can't believe that was allowed. It feels like another person, another world, another life.
Do you remember the people who helped you through this?
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've never had a friend sell a story in my life. I had a very strong core group of friends from a young age, from 10, from my senior school, one of whom is in this room right now, my best oldest friend.
Do you want to say, do you remember going through this? Do you remember?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, running away from...
She's 6 foot tall and I'm not. She was my security, but also she was sometimes a decoy. So we'd put like a jacket over her head and she'd run out of the theatre where I was doing a play. Even though I'd suddenly grown 6, however many inches. They didn't really notice. It's such chaos. But
what play were you doing?
My first play was As You Like It at the Wyndhams, But I think, having that stability, my family, my mother, my sister, it kept me anchored in a way where I feel like if I didn't have that, I understand how people derail completely.
What did you do during COVID for food?
It was interesting. All I did in COVID was cook.
Did you?
Where
were you?
Upstate New York.
Where?
In North Salem.
Yeah, I'm from there.
Are you? Whereabouts?
I'm from Woodstock, which is
right,
Kingston,
which is a bit further.
Which is a bit further. Yeah.
Of course you are.
Yeah,
of course, Ruthie's from Woodstock.
They say you could take the girl out of Woodstock.
That makes so much sense.
Do you think? I wasn't really like that. Though.
Did you go to the festival? No.
No, I had my tonsils out. But I know.
Oh my
parents
God.
wouldn't let me go. I was they scheduled that tonsil. Well, nobody knew it was going to be there, and I mean that was going to be like that. Also, it wasn't in Woodstock because at the last minute, the town fathers or whatever, we had to do it on that guy's farm.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like slightly nerdy about studying. I was, I was surrounded by people doing everything wild, and I was that girl who did her homework for a while. And my friend Libby and I had a test, so we went to the local cafe, and we were sitting there studying, and Bob Dylan sent a note. We saw him, and it was just when he was kind of starting out, but he was already famous. And he sent us a note saying, would you like to come back to my house and watch the band rehearse? And we sent back a note saying, no, we have a test tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
So there you go. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But maybe it's better. Probably failed it. I don't know. But I did wonder what would have happened if I'd gone back with.
Yeah.
I think
I would have
probably
definitely gone to Bob Dylan.
Don't you think?
I would have definitely gone.
I know. I that song "Je ne regrette rien."
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Well, that's one
maybe
of them.
that's one of them.
I would have actually instigated the
could
note
go
passing.
back.
I think you're a better woman than I am.
There's still time.
We'll throw the invite out there.
Maybe I should get
we'll
that
make
note
it really
and say,
nice.
Do you remember 50 years ago when you invited me to come?
That was
I'm ready.
me.
I'm ready now. I've decided, we can come back.
Nobel Prize-winning poet, Bob Dylan.
Quite rightly so, I think.
I completely agree.
I think he totally deserved it.
Yeah.
So you filmed in Venice and you filmed in...
Shreveport. I filmed in so many places all over the world. In Venice, I lived by the fish market.
What was that like?
Well, just the produce that you get. And I became friends with all the stall, kind of the proprietors of the stall, and the quality of tomatoes. That's the thing I really lament about living in England. But
what month were you there? Do you remember?
I was there from June till November.
Wow.
So from the most kind of glorious boiling hot to it being really moody and foggy and But watching the transition of the seasons through the produce of the food and the fish market was just stunning. I don't cook enough fish. I need to get better at that.
Okay, we can work on that.
Yeah.
We can do that. It's easy. We just talk about going to a city, going to a town, and going to a market. It tells you where you are.
Yeah.
The way the Venetians might shout, and towards Bologna they might just put everything out, wait for you to come to them.
Yes.
And then probably in Naples, the arrival of the produce, and it does. There is a dynamic. Do you think?
Absolutely. And then markets in France, very intimidating for me.
In what way?
I feel like as an English person trying to navigate a French market it's just intimidating. There is a superiority, and often rightly so, with the French cooking and the French produce, and sometimes it's charming. And I love places in Provence and outside. I love going to a market is my favorite pastime.
Do you find out if there are markets before you go there?
Yes.
To a city?
Yeah, and the days of them.
Yeah.
But the Italians are just a little bit more gregarious.
Yeah.
The French are a little bit more.
Have you ever tried to touch a melon in France? I did.
Did you get hit?
You know, they do
That's
that.
the worst, the disappointment.
Yeah, but probably to all the
Yeah.
French people who are listening here, we really respect your food culture. And we think it's amazing. It is amazing.
It is
in French,
incredible.
the way they will,
Yeah.
they really understand. But it took me, I lived in Paris for 6
Did
years,
you?
and it took me really a while to understand you do not touch anything.
Oh, that's a really good tip,
You do
'cause
not
I've fondled
touch. Well,
many
maybe
a-
this is different, but if you see a peach and you might want to hold it for a minute,
Yeah.
no, you don't do that.
You just trust that they're all perfect.
Yeah,
and
or
and
they'll
you should
tell
be so
you.
lucky
They'll
to have,
tell, yeah,
to have a
exactly.
peach.
And how do you
Testing.
eat? Apart from cooking your own food, when you know you're filming all day, will you eat a breakfast? You say you don't eat breakfast.
I'll eat a lot. No, I will. If I'm up that early, often filming, you're up at 5 or earlier, I'll be ravenous by the time it's, breakfast time. And I will have whatever they cook on set. I mean, I'm not too fussy. I think because of the boarding school
that's
upbringing, if I add enough salt to anything, I'll eat it. I don't love offal. I wish I did, because I feel like such a foodie, but I grew up loving steak and kidney pie, and now I don't think I want too much offal.
When you acted in Burnt,
Yes.
you played
A chef?
Tell us about playing a chef. And
Well, I love cooking, as you know, and food. And so the idea of playing a chef in a 2 Michelin star, or a kitchen that was going for Michelin stars, was incredible. We got trained by Marcus Waring.
yeah, so nice.
And who's lovely. Yeah. And I actually got to do, I did a service in his restaurant, the Berkeley, which has 2 Michelin stars, and I was on the fish station. He taught me how to fillet a turbot, which is really difficult. And then I was essentially on fish, and we had a working kitchen for the entire duration of that shoot, and Marcus was on set. So every burner was on, you really were part of a troupe, of a tribe of sort of chefs. And at the end of it, he said to me, "You're a cook and you've got a place in my kitchen."
Oh, that.
And I know, so I've got this backup plan. If it all goes to shit, I'm calling you. Well, this is more my style of cooking, but his is very...
No, he's good. He's really
amazing,
good.
and
He's
it's
really
good.
forensic. Yeah, but that's good as a kind of starter as well, that you start with, learning your lines. And
Exactly. And I went to the Lebris with Brett.
Oh, did you? What did you do there?
I kind of just sat in the kitchen for a service and watched. And the differences in people's kitchens are so... Marcus's is very... He's got a military background. It's incredibly pristine. It's incredibly ordered. Brett's is kind of chaotic. Yours is like a family kitchen. You so can tell the personality of a chef by the way they run their kitchen.
Have you done improvisation theatre? Have you worked on...
I've been made to, in workshopping a play or playing around with something on a set before you start filming. It's funny, I get quite intimidated by improvising. I kind of accosted Larry David in the way I might Bob Dylan at the Vanity Fair party in Hollywood, which sounds so glamorous, and it is, unless you're me and you drink too many martinis and sort of overexcited. And there was Larry David by the bar, and Ollie, my boyfriend, introduced me really to Curb. He's sort of Larry in training. I think he will end up that way.
Could be worse.
Could be worse.
I always say that Larry really never does anything wrong.
Oh no,
he doesn't
the
really.
Greatest human being. Yeah,
he is just he gets into trouble and he'd probably get but he's actually essentially such a good person.
He's a great with a huge heart, and I think I was obviously so enthusiastically kind of pouring my praise on him that it got the cogs turning. And about 6 months later, he was like, "I have this idea for Curb, and basically you're hitting on me and I, So obviously I was flirtatious, but Ollie was there. I wasn't deliberately. Anyway, you get a skeleton script. It looks a little bit like this recipe, and it's sort of like Sienna is converting to Judaism, sees Larry at the temple and comes up and talks to him. So you get an idea of where the scene has to go, but you're improvising with one of the great, if not the greatest.
Yeah. Well, if you were improvising, you did so well.
Well, it was terrifying. I was not comfortable.
Really, really good.
Yeah, but he's wonderful because he finds the whole thing incredibly funny.
The last question I would ask you is that you describe times in your life or days in your life or maybe places in your life where you had food, and you actually asked me that question, when food becomes something that is not just to alleviate hunger or to share with your children or to experience together or to relax with cooking, but it also can be comfort. Is there something that you would go to in your whole life?
There are several things, but I'm an enormous spaghetti bolognese guy. And Tori, who's in this room, we do lots of work with the International Medical Corps, which is an NGO. And as a result of that, we've traveled all over the world to really remote places, northern Nigeria, in a kind of Boko Haram region. And it's dangerous, Congo and Haiti and all sorts of places, but you can often find a bolognese, bizarrely. And one of the best spaghetti bologneses we ever had, we were going to do a bolognese tour of the world because we are obsessed with it. I think it's so delicious. Was in northern Nigeria, in this tiny, very weird hotel. It was amazing, wasn't it? You didn't order it the first night, and then we both ordered it. I had it twice in a row, and you had it the second night. It was that good.
Well, do you know what made it so good?
I don't. And I'm quite a cheap date, but I think it was beef. But I think anything would have been, something familiar in that environment is. But I love a bolognese. I love chicken soup if I'm sick.
Yeah.
I guess that's the Jewish influence.
Yeah.
I love curry.
Can we just talk about the NGO?
Yes.
Tell us about.
Well, in 2010, I became an ambassador for this NGO called the International Medical Corps. So they basically provide healthcare for displaced people all around the world, and I visit their programs, and it's water, sanitation, inoculations, feeding, and you get assigned different departments to kind of run, but their ethos is really holistic in that they don't just go in and administer a Band-Aid and provide this service and then leave. They train locals to become able to run the program. So it becomes ultimately self-sufficient. And it's an extraordinary experience to visit these places and meet these survivors of all sorts of terrible famine. In the Congo, rape was a method of war, and incredibly harrowing places to visit and experiences to have. But they're an incredible organization. And I think 98.6% of every dollar goes straight to the field.
Are you still working with them?
Yeah, I am. I haven't done a trip for a while. The last one was quite intense and dangerous in Nigeria, and I then got pregnant and then COVID. I need to do another one, but you can always do more.
Relevant. Thank you, Sienna.
Thanks, Ruthie.
What a time. What a great day. Thank you for listening to Ruthie's Table 4 in partnership with Moncler.